Hi guys, story recaps here. I am going to explain a 2012 American science fiction action film called John Carter. Please try to like or dislike the video, it is important to us. The film begins on an exotic planet named Barsoom. The planet is divided into three primary kingdoms, the Helium, the Zodonga, and the Tharks. For millennia, Helium and Zodonga have been at war. At the start of the film, we witness the army of Helium, dressed in blue capes, battling the army of Zodonga, dressed in red capes. Sab then, the general of Zodonga, is contacted by three men who claim to be God's servants, known as Thurn. Matai Shang, the Thurn's commander, hands him a strange blue sword, and informs him that he has been selected by the goddess to receive it. The Thurns have chosen to help Zodonga in his war. They control a strange blue light known as the Ninth Ray, which makes them stronger than any other living thing on Barsoom. The action shifts to New York City in 1881. A guy named Edgar is summoned to New York City by his uncle, John Carter. When Edgar arrives at the station, he is met by John's butler, who drives him to John's mansion. John, it turns out, is a wealthy guy, and a former Confederate Army commander. John's lawyer notifies Edgar of John's untimely death. John has transferred all of his riches to Edgar. The lawyer then leads Edgar to John's tomb, where his remains is being maintained. However, the mausoleum's entrance only opens from the inside. Later, the lawyer delivers Edgar John's personal diary, which John had requested that only Edgar read. He begins reading it once the lawyer has left. It opens by noting that Edgar was the only one who believed John's crazy stories when he was a kid, so it only feels right to relate this story to him. The plot begins in Arizona following the Civil War. John Carter is a former Confederate Army captain who now searches for gold in caverns. Powell is a Union colonel who wants John to assist his U.S. cavalrymen in their fight against the Apache. As a result, he kidnaps him and attempts to recruit him as a soldier. However, John no longer wishes to fight as a soldier. After numerous failed efforts at escaping, he succeeds by knocking out a guard and stealing the colonel's horse. The colonel and his soldiers are on his track. They come discover a mounted Apache war band not far away. The colonel and his soldiers engage in a gunfight with the public. In the middle of the chaos, John attempts to escape, but the colonel is hurt in the battle. He rescues the colonel from his plight and leads him to a cave. John is unfamiliar with the cave because he has never gone here to look for gold. He enters, strikes a match, and is astounded to find a large amount of gold lodged in the cave's roof. However, a figure emerges behind him out of nowhere. The dude is one of the Thurns we saw at the start of the film. The colonel informs John, who engages in combat with the odd stranger. He shoots the man and causes him to tumble to the ground. When John approaches him, he hears the guy exclaim, "Barsoom," while holding a strange medallion. John takes up the medallion and says the word, "Barsoom," again and again. A dazzling blue light suddenly shoots out of the locket. When John opens his eyes again, he finds himself in an unfamiliar landscape. He gets up and attempts to walk, but he fails at every step. He appears to be able to float in midair. He practices walking in the unfamiliar surroundings, perplexed. As he walks, he comes upon a hill, where numerous eggs are hatching. Then, on enormous animals, a vast group of green critters with 6 limbs appears. When the commander attacks him, John is forced to take a tremendous leap. The others begin firing at John, but stop when their captain commands them to. The monster introduces himself as Tas Tarkus, and speaks in a strange language. When John identifies himself as John Carter, from Virginia, the animals figure out that his name is Virginia. Tarkus asks John to leap again, but he refuses and attacks him. The creatures attack John and kidnap him. We learn that their species is known as Tharks when they speak. Dea, the princess of the city of Helium, practices delivering a weapon she has devised to her father, the king of Helium, elsewhere on the same planet. Helium is at war with another city called Zodonga, and is about to lose due to Thurns uniting with Zodonga. Dea has discovered the secret of the Zodonga's Ninth Ray, which is employed to combat the war. When she shows the king her weapon, however, a guy surreptitiously triggers a malfunction, leading it to explode. Sab then, the king of Zodonga, wants to marry Dea in order to stop the conflict, but she is strongly opposed. If Sab then marries her, he will become the ruler of Helium, with the authority to control all of Barsoom. Meanwhile, The Tharks transport John to their city and place him among the newborn infants. A female Thark called Sola gives John a liquid at night, after which he can comprehend Thark's language. The Tharks instruct John to leap high in front of everyone the next day. John realizes that Tarkus has the medallion, and without it, he cannot return home. Then, out of nowhere, two warships appeared in the sky. The Helium and the Zodonga are at battle with one another. The Tharks, who bet on who would win, are entertained by the battle. In the ships, we witness Princess Dea battling. She tries to take control of the spacecraft but falls off. John saves the princess by using his newfound jumping abilities. The Tharks begin to applaud for John, who is now battling with Dea against the Zodonga's warriors. John manages to reverse the direction of the battle, allowing the Helium to win, but their spacecraft also crashes. Dea and John are in the company of the Tharks. Tarkus is impressed with John's ability and appoints him as his right-hand man. John feels hesitant about the concept, but he does not oppose it. Dea and John chat late at night, and Dea tells to John that they are on Mars, which is known as Barsoom in their language. John is astonished and refuses to trust her. He informs her that he is from Earth. Dea, too, finds it difficult to believe. Carter has extraordinary strength and can leap high due to his higher bone density and the planet's low gravity. Dea then leads him to the Tharks temple, where humans are not permitted. She thinks that the temple will have a method to find out how individuals may travel across universes like John. Sola, a compassionate female Thark, walks after them, pleading with them to stop. Dea shows John a statue of the goddess, Isis, and reads some inscriptions on it. However, the three of them are quickly caught by the Tharks and sentenced to death for breaking into the temple. Tarkus requests that everyone leave him alone with the prisoners in the cell so that he can chop John's hands off. When they are alone, he admits that he is Sola's father and that he does not want his children to perish at the hands of the Tharks. He offers John his medallion and instructs him to travel to the ISS River to solve the riddle of the goddess Isis and return to his realm. When the Tharks return to the chamber after some time has passed, they discover that Tarkus has betrayed them. Tal Hajus, Tarkus's rival, comes to power and declares himself the new ruler. Then we see John, Dea, and Sola walking towards the ISS River. Dea is leading the way, but Sola informs John that she is bringing them to the city of Helium rather than the river. When John confronts her about it, it is revealed that she was transporting him to her city in order to use him as a soldier in the war. Disappointed, John instructs Sola to lead the way and discards the princess. Dea says that she did it just to avoid marrying Sabthan. He requests that she accompany him to the river. She agrees since she has no other option. The three sail down the ISS River, till they approach a gigantic inverted pyramid. When John and Dea get to the top, they notice a peculiar blue energy emerging on the ground. Dea understands that this is the strength of the ninth ray, from which she built her weapon. They also realize that Carter's presence on Mars is most likely the result of a clone of himself being transmitted from Earth to Mars through the ninth ray. Then, an army of war hoons arrives, headed by Matai Shang, the Thern's leader. John heroically instructs Dea and Sola to escape and confronts the war hoon army personally. Helium's monarch sends his troops to John's rescue, defeating the war hoons and saving him. They transport an injured John to Helium. Dea arrives home and greets her father. She is taken aback to find the king of Zodonga, Sabthan, appear. He has arrived without a weapon or troops to ask Dea to marry him and put a stop to the conflict. Dea has no other option to end the battle, so she unwillingly accepts to marry him. In the scene that follows, we find John sleeping in a chamber in Helium Palace. Dea sends a soldier to get him and covertly transport him to her chamber. Dea requests that John use the medallion to return to his home. When the guards enter her room, John vanishes. Dea believes John has returned to Earth, but he is really hiding from the soldiers. When they depart, he tries to go outdoors but is quickly taken by Matai Shang. Matai Shang's capacity to transform into any creature around him astounds John. The entire city is preparing for Sabthan and Dea's wedding. Matai Shang uses a technique produced by the ninth ray to tie John to himself. John is unable to move his body in accordance with his wishes. Matai Shang appears to have power over him via his wrist gadget. Matai Shang then informs him that Sabthan intends to murder Dea and conquer Helium following the marriage. Because Sabthan was the easiest to influence, the Thern sided with him in the conflict. However, Matai Shang's true goal is to govern all of Barsoom through Sabthen. Matai Shang is ready to murder John when an extraterrestrial dog he had previously befriended comes to his help. It bites Matai Shang's wrist gadget, freeing John. He rushes to a flying ship and takes off to prevent Dea from marrying Sabthen. However, John is unable to control the plane and crashes near the Tharks area. They have him imprisoned alongside a wounded Tarkus. Tal Hajus, the Tharks' new king, pairs John and Tarkus with huge monsters known as white apes. In front of the whole Thark population, John succeeds to capture the apes. He then challenges Tal Hajus to a battle, which he easily wins. Everyone applauds John, who is now the Tharks' new leader. He then persuades them to join him in his war against the Zodanga. The army of Tharks and John march to Dea and Sabthen's wedding. John arrives barely in time to stop the wedding. Sabthen tries to kill Dea when he sees him, but John stops him just in time. A battle between the warriors of the two cities erupts once more. The Tharks, on the other hand, are now on Helium's side. The Zodanga is quickly defeated, but Matai Shang escapes with John's medallion. John doesn't bother looking for the medallion since he intends to live on Mars as Dea's spouse. He and Dea marry, and the audience applauds. He is now Helium's prince. The next morning, John and Dea are standing on a balcony. When Matai Shang comes, John fights him, but he uses the medallion to send him back to Earth. When John awakens, he is coated in dust and has a lengthy beard. He is in the same cave as Colonel Powell and turns towards him to find his bones, implying that a long time has passed in the Earth while he was on Mars. He searches for a medallion but can't find it. He can't travel back in time. He becomes wealthy as a result of the gold found in the cave. He is aware that there are more medallions on the Earth. He establishes a mining firm and spends the next 10 years searching for the medallion. Until one day, he comes upon one on a site. John is overjoyed, but he is aware that the Therns have been watching him all along. When he travels to Mars, his body on Earth must be preserved since any injury to it will lead him to die on both planets. That is why his tomb can only be accessed from the inside. He had planned his death in order to return to Mars. In his journal, John expresses his desire for Edgar to safeguard his tomb from the Therns in exchange for the gold. After reading the journal, Edgar is taken aback. He walks out to the tomb and tries to enter it using a secret password that turns out to be Ned, the name John used to call Edgar as a child. A Thern approaches Edgar as the mausoleum doors open. He'd been spying on Edgar, planning to murder John. However, before he can kill Edgar, he is knocked unconscious from behind. Edgar is taken aback to discover his uncle John standing in front of him. John accepts Thern's medallion, despite the fact that he had never discovered the medallion. All of this, including his death, was faked in order to draw a Thern and take his medallion. John then asks Edgar to look after his tomb from now on, and enters it. He sleeps on the bed with the medallion and chants the mantras that will transport him back to Mars. Subscribe and turn on the notification. You can also dislike or like the video because we upload every day.